I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities in Music, VIMTV. Today, to start our set of 10, episode 189, Disturbed's 2010 release, Asylum. Tom's a huge Disturbed fan. I'm going to let him do all the talking here.
Alright, well, Disturbed came out, around late 90s, early 2000s, in the metal scene. The first album was The Sickness, which actually incorporated a lot more industrial and electronic components than they've really ever done since then. You get a little bit of that on 10,000 Fists, but after The Sickness was Believe, just a lot more almost pop-formatted song structures, sticking pretty straight with the guitars, drums, bass, vocals. David Draymond, the vocalist, has a very, very unique just timbre in his voice. When he sings, you know it's him. After that, 10,000 Fists, mixing it up a little bit, getting more into classic metal. Indestructible was like, that was when, for me, they were towing the line, just getting more and more kind of corny and well, I mean, okay.
Like backwards K-Corn?
Huh?
Like backwards K-Corn? Like
oh, no, not like that. But I mean, I guess there's some similarities in the sound, but I mean, a lot of people will say that they've been corny from the beginning and kind of tacky. For me, though, the big thing that's changed that makes them more corny now than they were in the beginning is that on The Sickness, and even a little bit more on Believe than their last few albums, I just felt like David Draymond's vocal delivery and performance was much more believable. When you listen to The Sickness, even if the lyrics are kind of dumb, kind of tacky, I won't argue that, he presents them in a way that you're like, wow, this guy is pissed off. And anymore on Asylum, you don't get as much of that. You feel more like it's just a performance. And they're still a good band. They're still very talented. But you just feel like it's kind of the instrumentals carrying the intensity. And instead of David Draymond adding to the intensity a lot, it's more just this kind of, hey, I'm a metal singer kind of thing.
And that's my biggest criticism on this album is mostly just the way I think his vocal presentation. Yeah. Well, I think he does a good job selling it. I don't think it's authentic. I think I kind of use the term he cut and paste a lot of his vocal parts song to song, and I just think they get really repetitive, and I do agree, the lyrics are just awful. And for a guy like me who loves lyrics...
They've never been all that great. I think some of the lyrics on... on Believe and 10,000 Fists were a little better. But yeah, he puts his political beliefs and even some of the religious references a little too much in the forefront for my taste. Now, I will say this. I made the mistake the first time I listened to this album of listening to it at night. I didn't want to wake up my roommates. I listened to it pretty quiet. Oh, no. You can't do that. Oh, no. Which is why, to demonstrate, I have made this graph of how good Disturbed is versus the volume. So over here you have how good Disturbed will be versus the x-axis of volume. So, yeah, thank you. So as you increase the volume here, Disturbed gets better. But right here you'll notice that this line approaches this line right here asymptotically. It never touches the line, but just gets closer and closer to the Disturbed quality limit. That's the best they're going to get at any volume. So as you keep turning it up, it doesn't really get better. But down here at low volumes, not going to be that great. As you bring it up, it gets better and better. So follow that if you're going to listen to this band, because
I hate him. I hate him.
It's very good advice.
But Tom has a really good point. You got to listen to this loud, because really, it's metal music. It's whatever. Disturbed really does a great job of walking that line between different metal genres. They're not exactly new metal. They're not exactly prog metal. They're not exactly thrash metal. They're just kind of all-around alternative metal. They can do everything. They're very talented, which, as we pointed out in Avenged Sevenfold's episode, you absolutely have to be talented and a good instrumentalist to be in a metal band in 2010. And you know what? Disturbed pulls that off, and so turning it up would make sense.
Yeah.
So... Did you end up really enjoying this? Or?
I did enjoy it. And it took me a while. The thing is, I don't think there's many standout tracks, but I just felt like it was fairly solid. I enjoyed listening to it. At the same time, though, it is going to be that kind of brain-numbing background listen. There's not a lot of depth here in the content to speak of at all. just to me, it was enjoyable. It was fun to listen to. It was nice to listen to them get a little bit of that attitude back. I feel like some of this draws back to their earlier stuff that I liked a lot. So maybe a lot of it was just a nostalgia trip for me that a lot of people won't be able to relate to. But I feel like, these guys have settled into a niche, and what they do well. One big thing is, though, they're definitely still playing it pretty safe on this album. They're not really going out there trying to change themselves or the music world. They're just kind of like, here's a Disturbed album. We wrote some songs that were the best we could do.
And you pretty much nailed it on the head. It's just I'm a lot more sensitive, I think, to a lot of these things. One thing that I thought is just when you're in this applies to all music in general, but I really focus on this with metal music, is that metal music has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, how the hell can you believe these guys who are screaming for no reason? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And you're not going to like it as much if it's not authentic. So when you have things like vocal parts that get really repetitive, regardless of if this guy's a good salesman, it's good for making singles, but as an album, it's not believable. And then when you couple that with just really, really shitty lyrics, I mean, it's just hard to grasp for me. And metal music, the problem is that all metal bands seem to have these awesome instrumentals anymore. Yeah. So I mean, how do you diversify?
You have
yourself?
To set it apart, not in just not in how fast you can solo. It has to be something melodic, something extra that sets you apart. Because just how fast you can play isn't cutting it anymore. People have done that. Right. Let's talk real quick about the last track.
The last track is a series of letters that stand for, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And if you can recognize from that track title what that song is, it is a U2 cover. There's a minute and a half of silence going into it, and then they bust into a Disturbed, a very good cover of I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
They make it their own. They do a good job of that.
But here's the deal. They waited a minute and a half to do it, so the album has drawn to a close on a good note, really. Yeah. And then they wait a minute and a half, and then they bust into a U2 song? What the I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
And they've done covers in the past on Down With The Sickness, or just The Sickness, sorry. They do a cover of Shout. They do a cover of Land of Confusion by Genesis on 10,000 Fists. They're pretty good at doing covers, but the placement here is bad. This is even worse than when we reviewed Bears, Mare, Scraps, and Bones by Cancer Bats. They end with a cover of Beastie Boys' Sabotage. Good cover, but why would you end an album that you're making a statement of yourself? Why would you end it on something that someone else has written? It doesn't make any sense.
Right, and at least they integrated that as part of their album, where here it's almost like, well, I was telling Tom earlier, it's like they just tagged on a B-side. Well, in 2010, you have no reason to tag a B-side onto your album. There's so many ways to release singles or EPs or...
Release it as an extra download on iTunes or something for people to enjoy, but it shouldn't be a part of this record.
Well, to stop us from ranting all night, Tom, my favorite tracks were 2, Asylum, which I thought was the best track on the album for me. Track 7, The Animal, and track 11, Sacrifice.
I'm going to go track 2, Asylum, track 4, Warrior, track 5, Another Way to Die. I think they did some cool things with the song structure there.
Video for that.
And then also I'm going to go with track 8, Crucified.
Cool. I did not like this. This bothered me. The lyrics, the vocal delivery, and even a lot of the originality, they just didn't sell it for me. I don't like how it ended with the cover. This really bothered me. And I liked it less and less with each listen. Unfortunately for me, that means I'm going to settle on a 57 for a score.
Okay. I'm going to go with an even 76. I feel like this is a classic mid to upper 70s album for me, in that it's not breaking any new ground, it's not really forward-thinking, it's just them doing what they do well.
A little bit of a disagreement here on the IMTV, and that's awesome! We haven't done that enough.
Yeah, we haven't disagreed enough lately.
So what do you think? Do you guys like it when me and Tom disagree? And do you like Disturbed? And do you think that they sold it on this album? Tell us at www.velocitiesandmusic.com. I am Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities in Music, moving music critique forward.